Good morning, children. Let us continue the class now. So let us see the next renewable source is wind. Already you have learnt about sun and water, isn't it? Now let us go to wind. So moving air, also known as wind. If air is moving, then you call that as wind. Possesses kinetic energy. Anything which is moving will possess kinetic energy. Sailboats, you see the boats sailing, isn't it? Sailboats are designed in order to utilize wind energy for their movement. So you have seen the boat will be moving, isn't it? So that is a sailboat. How it is moving? When the wind is pushing it, it will start moving. So you can see this is a boat. Okay. So here you can see a raft will be there and there will be a cloth. So what happens? As the wind is pushing here, so what happens? This will push that raft. So based on that, the boat will start moving forward. So sailing boat will be done by using the wind energy. See, sailboats are designed in order to utilize wind energy for their movement. Windmills use wind energy to perform mechanical work like grinding grains and pumping water. You have seen the windmills, what they do? They are used to grind the grains and pumping water. For pumping water also what is required? Wind is required. So once the air is completely filled, you see water will not come, isn't it? So this air, the movement of the air or the wind will help in pumping the water. Wind turbines use wind energy to produce electricity. What I shown you here, it was water energy. So the same way you can produce electricity using wind energy. They are installed in wind power plants for this purpose. So where do you get, how can you generate wind electricity? Through wind power plants or wind power stations. From there you get the generation of electricity. Now wind is also an inexhaustible and pollution free source. It is also inexhaustible, means though you are using wind every day, you are going on using air every day, what is happening? It is not getting exhausted. It is always there. So it is inexhaustible. See here. Wind is also an inexhaustible and pollution free. It is not going to cause pollution until you burn something or you do something. Otherwise normally the wind is not polluted. The disadvantage is that it is not always available when needed. Whenever you feel like wind has to be there, you cannot get. Wind means not the moving air with the pressure. That is called wind. Every time you don't get wind. Wind power plants have higher initial investment costs than plants having generators using energy from fuels like coal. So wind power plants will cost you more. If you are going to install the wind power plants, it will cost you more when compared to the things which is used by coal. Coal is nothing but a fossil fuel. Already you know that. Okay. So that's what here. Wind power plants have higher initial investment. You have to give more amount for that than plants having generators using energy from fuels like coal. You see an activity. Make a list of the locations of hydroelectric power plants and wind power plants in India. This you can just take the help of your parents and you can see in the Google, you will get all this list. Okay. What percentage of the total electricity in India is generated by each of them? So you have to do it as your homework. So take help from your guidance from your parents. Now let us say about the nuclear energy. We have seen that there is tremendous energy stored inside atoms and this gets released when it splits. So what happens? So you see tremendous energy stored inside atoms. Where is this atom? They are present in elements. Okay, atoms are present in elements. So group of atoms, see all that you can see molecules, atoms and all those things. So they have got the energy in them. Okay, atoms have got energy in them and they get released when it splits. Means when you apply some force, what happens? The atom will get splitted. It gets divided. This nuclear energy is harnessed in atomic power stations to generate electricity. Even from nuclear power stations also you can generate electricity. From water you can generate, from wind you can generate, Now from nuclear power plants also you can generate electricity. It is also being used for destructive purposes, though in the form of nuclear bombs. So they are used for most nuclear bombs. When you are able to do something good, use it for good purpose. But what happens? People are using for bad purpose, like making atom bombs or nuclear bombs and then putting it in some places, isn't it? And destroying the whole life then. Okay. Now, nuclear energy is renewable and environment friendly as it does not pollute air. So, if you take it in the form of nuclear energy, it is actually renewable, means which can be used and reused. Environmental friendly, and it does not pollute air until and unless you create problems. Only nuclear energy will not create any problem in the atmosphere. A nuclear power plant can be set up in less space as compared to the others. So nuclear power plant easily you can set up. When you compare with water and wind, this will be easily done because they are used by elements, nuclear elements. The disadvantage is that the radioactive waste produced by nuclear plants is very hazardous. So radioactive materials are there. Okay, these radioactive materials are very much problem. What happens? If they get entry into the atmosphere, it will cause so many destructions. So it is very hazardous. It is going to cause so many problems. Also, nuclear radiation is very harmful to living organisms. If that radiation reaches to living organisms, it is very much harmful. If it leaks out accidentally, by accident if it's leaking out, nuclear energy is leaking out, it causes serious illness in them that would persist for several years. So what happens if there is a leakage of the nuclear energy, what happens? It will cause very much big problem in the life of organisms, whether plants, animals, whatever it's, everybody will get affected, and that it will not stay for some time, it will be there for a longer time. That effect will be there for a long time. So that is about the nuclear energy. Now coming to biomass. Biomass, already I told you the waste materials of plants and animals, that I told you. So it is biomass. Biomass refers to the matter in trees, crops, other plant material, agricultural waste and animal waste. So plant and animal products, waste materials are called as the biomass. It contains energy in the form of carbohydrates that are formed using photosynthesis by plants. So it contains energy in the form of carbohydrates. So this biomass is consisting of energy in the form of carbohydrates. I told you the plants prepare their food called starch. They are stored in their body, isn't it, by photosynthesis. So that is nothing but carbohydrates that are formed using photosynthesis by plants. Dry biomass can be burnt directly. Dry biomass means, now for example, leaves from the trees will fall. What happens? It is dry leaves, isn't it? So that can be directly used to produce heat, isn't it? If you burn them, what happens? Heat is produced. Heat will be produced. Heat and light will be produced. Dried cow dung cakes. You say that berani. In Kannada you say berani, isn't it? So what is that? Cow dung will be made into form of roti and kept in the sunlight to dry, which is used as fuel. It is used as fuel. So dried cow dung cakes are still most commonly used to generate heat in villages across India. In villages normally they use this berani because they go on rearing cows and the cow dung will be there. That cow dung they use for making these cakes. Cakes means not eating cakes. It is to burn in the form of fuel. Another method of generating energy from biomass is biochemical decomposition. So by biochemical decomposition, how to make biochemical decomposition? The waste materials what you collect, even the cow dung or the plant and animal products, you just make a pit, go on dumping this. All these waste materials you go on dumping in the pit, and little water if you don't pour water also, they will directly start decomposing. They become gobra, what you call. So they decompose. In this process, bacteria, yeast and enzymes break down the biomass, generating methane and carbon dioxide. So in that process of, what is that? decomposition, what happens? They generate a chemical called methane. It's nothing but combination of carbon and hydrogen, CH4 it is called. So carbon and hydrogen, that is called methane, and carbon dioxide, CO2. So all this will be generated. The methane gas can be burnt to produce heat and electricity. Again, that methane can be used for making heat and electricity. The methane gas can be burnt to produce heat and electricity. Biomass can also be fermented to produce alcohol. So, this biomass, that some good materials if you are taking, and then if you put it in a proper process, if you do, you can produce alcohol. Now, especially this jaggery and then flask and all that, if you just make it in the form of in a proper source, you have to do it. Okay. So then what happens? That will start giving out alcohol, which can then be burned to produce heat and electricity. So with the alcohol also you can burn and produce heat and electricity. Biomass is a renewable energy source, as it can be replenished by growing plants and trees. So biomass is also a renewable energy source because it can be replenished by growing plants and animals. So again, the generation is not going to stop. Generation will go on continuing, both plants as well as animals. And whenever the generation is continuing, what happens? There will be waste materials produced. So these waste materials can be again renewed. Did you understand? That's the meaning here. Waste material, that is biomass, disposed of in the open can pollute the environment, isn't it? You put all the waste materials in an open space and leave it. How do you feel? It will start polluting the environment. Very bad smell it gives, isn't foul smell. So it pollutes the environment. Instead, it can be used to produce energy. Instead of just throwing here and there and making the environment polluted, instead what can you do? You can use it in a proper way to produce energy. The disadvantage of biomass is its higher cost of collection and transportation. See, the disadvantage is you have to collect the biomass, then it is costly. Collecting and then transporting also. You have to transport it to different places, isn't it? For all that you require money. Now let us see interconversion of different forms of energy. We have already learnt about different forms of energy. The law of conservation of energy states that, this is very important, you should know, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be converted from one form to another. Means energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can be only transformed from one form to other. Now for example, potential energy, when it is in stationary, that means it is not moving. Then potential, it is stored. Energy is stored there. Stored up energy is called potential energy. Once you use that for movement, then it becomes kinetic energy. And with the kinetic energy, that is when it's moving, finally it has to stop. Then again, potential energy. So that is the meaning here. It cannot be created nor destroyed, but it only can be transformed from one form to other. That's the meaning. Below are some examples where energy is transformed from one form to another. Example, here you see. Potential energy and kinetic energy. A simple pendulum swinging to and fro is a good example where potential and kinetic energies get interconverted. See, a pendulum, what the pendulum does? It will be moving like this, isn't it? It will be moving. So when it comes, it is stored up energy. When it comes like this, it is kinetic energy. Again, when it comes here, it is potential. When it is moving, kinetic. So potential, kinetic. You can see that, isn't it? So it is transformed then. That is called as a pendulum here. Now, at the extreme points of the swing of the pendulum is at rest and its energy is entirely potential. When it moves and stops there and again it comes now. When it stops there, it is potential. Again when it comes, it is kinetic. When it stops here, again it is potential. When it moves, kinetic. So that is the meaning here. The pendulum is at rest and its energy is entirely potential. At the lowest point, the energy of the pendulum is entirely kinetic. So when it is going on moving and moving, what happens? It becomes kinetic energy. Excuse me. So you understood about potential energy and kinetic energy, isn't it? When it is stored, it is potential. When it is moving, it is kinetic. Now let us see about mechanical energy and electrical energy. In hydroelectric and wind power stations, hydroelectric means water generated, and wind, with the wind power station, the mechanical energy of water and wind is converted into electrical energy. Means movement of water and movement of wind will be converted into electrical energy. Devices which achieve this are known as generators. So from where you are going to get electrical energy and wind energy, it is used by an instrument, isn't it? So those devices or the instruments are called as the generators. Electrical energy is converted to mechanical energy. Electrical to mechanical. Mechanical is again movement. In a motor, electrical energy is converted into mechanical energy in a motor. Now for example, you can see here. See, there is a motor here, down there is a motor fixed. Okay. See, now what I am going to do? It's a mechanical energy. See, now I am just making it. What happens? It is moving. It's moving, isn't it? So electrical energy is converted into mechanical energy with the help of motor. This is not an electrical energy. I am telling you about motor here. So just with the help of motor, what happens? You can see it is moving. Understood? Like that, you see. Yes. So you can see here, electrical energy is converted to mechanical energy in a motor. How that I have seen the doll, no? But there is not electrical energy, it's just a mechanical energy with a normal motor it is. So in some houses, you might have come across motors that run on electricity and pump water from bore wells into overhead tanks. Isn't it? Normally in houses, what happens in the sump? In the sump itself, there will be a motor fixed, and that will be connected to the pipes to the overhead tanks, because there will be 2 floors, 3 floors, whatever it is, and on the top there will be tanks. And when you just on the electric switch, what happens? It is connected to this motor, isn't it? Immediately what happens? Water will be drawn, and that will be passed through the pipe. It will go to the tank. It will fall into the tank. So all that is done because of this mechanical energy and electrical energy. So let me stop it here, children. We will continue in the next class. Thank you.